Hi friend, it's Jayma here, and today I have a double page scrapbook layout for you documenting some family photos. So this is my whole side of the family. I have a pretty small family. My parents, my sister and her husband and 2 kids, and then me and my husband and my 2 kids, our 2 kids, I should say. And this is at the very end of a long weekend for my mom's 70th birthday celebration a couple of years ago. I already scrapbooked the very first part of this weekend, and I'll link to that at the end of this video, where my sister and her family walked in the door and completely surprised my mom. She was so surprised. We caught it on camera and it was awesome. So I've got a lot of in-between photos to scrapbook still, and like all of you, I am behind on scrapbooking and I will never run out of things to scrapbook. So I have this Florals in Bloom, or the scrapbooking kit is Memories in Bloom. I have both the paper pack and the scrapbooking kit. And I knew I wanted to use this because my mom loves florals. I love florals, and I'm actually going to scrapbook this twice. So I'm using the same exact photos, the same exact layout, but with different papers. To scrapbook this here with you, and then at the end of the video I'll show you the second layout with slightly different papers so you can see the difference. So I'm just deciding what I want to use for my first papers. Probably any of these, almost all of them would have worked, but I'm just trying to decide which ones I like best. There's a lot of different colors in the photo. And that photo, or that paper that you kind of see off to the left there, is what I end up deciding on because it has all of the right colors that are in the photos. And then I'll use a different paper because I don't have enough of that for the second layout. And spoiler alert, I think I end up liking the second layout paper a little bit better, and I'll explain why when we look at that. So this sticker sheet is from the scrapbooking kit, and there was also those little pop-out pieces over on the left, so I might be able to pull some of those in. And then I'm using this sketch. This is from the Creative Design Team sketchbook. I think it's from the volume 1. We have 3 sketchbooks out for 12 by 12 layouts, and they're all fabulous. And spoiler alert, there is a volume 4 coming out very, very soon. So go ahead and check the information down in the description below. I'll have a link to our website where you can find all of the different sketchbooks. And by the time this airs, the 4th one may even be up, which is super exciting. So now I have my focal paper cut, and I don't know if you noticed, but that kind of pinky plum colored floral, there was also a row of those at the top of the paper, so I strategically cut it because I didn't want that color represented twice. It wasn't in my photos, so I just strategically cut it so that I only had those few flowers that are down toward the bottom of that piece. And I'm going to back these all on white because that's typically what I do. And then we'll decide what color I want my second mat to be, because it definitely needs a second mat so that the photos stand off of that busy floral paper. This is Secret C, and I'm really liking that, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with it. We'll have a lot of the other colors represented in our embellishments. And also I pulled in that Our Family title that was from the die cut sheet, and since that's also Secret C, I thought that having the mats in Secret C looked nice. And then I also pulled in some Secret C as that border at the bottom and top of the layout. I also wanted to point out that on the left page, the big group photo with all of us is on the top where there's the white paper under it. Photos can be busy too, just like paper, especially when you have a big group shot. So by having the biggest group shot over the white paper, it helps it to not get as lost on the busy paper. This is the Coneflower Celebrations die set, and I fell in love with this, as did so many people when it released in the annual catalog. It is so cool. You have this base piece, And actually, I don't know if you can see on that die set, it actually is like it folds up into a card. So do you see the die, how it actually is perforated or scored in the middle? And I just cut that apart so I'd have one background piece and then the detail piece and then the center piece, which is kind of at the top. And there are so many combinations you could do with this set as far as colors. I decided I wanted to just go with classic white and yellow, kind of looks more like a daisy, but I really, really like that look. And then we have the stem here and the leaves, and I cut those in Granny Apple Green. And then I'm going to show you a little trick to extend these stems. The one on the left here looked like it was kind of floating in midair, and I didn't like that, so I'm going to extend it to make it go all the way down to the bottom of the page. And then this one here, I was considering extending it, but I'm going to have it just end here at the bottom of the photo, and I think that's going to look okay. Okay, so we've got my die plates here, and I'm going to put my stem here on this little strip that I have, being mindful of which way I want it to curve, although it doesn't really matter a whole lot. But I want to stop the die cutting machine before I get to the end of the stem. So I didn't take it all the way to the end of the stem. That way it didn't cut the end, and I can just keep cutting and extend it. Now you could probably do some partial die cutting and die cut the other half of the stem to extend it, because cutting it versus die cutting it does give you a little bit of a different look. You don't get that kind of beveled nice edge you get with dies, but I think that it's fine. And on top of that busy paper, you really can't see a whole lot that it's different. So, you could cut the whole stem just with your scissors, but you might run the risk of it not being very straight. Even with the little bit that I cut, I kind of had to go back and fix it because, I can't cut a straight line to save my life. How many of you can relate? So just making sure that's going all the way to the bottom, trimming it right to the top of those little border pieces, and then I'm going to add these little leaves, and I think they look cute. I think that these leaves are adorable. There's two pieces for each leaf. There's the kind of base and then the detailed top part. And I used the two-tone cardstock to cut those. So the bottom base piece is the light side of the Granny Apple Green, and then the more detailed piece is the dark side of the Granny Apple Green. So you have a little differentiation there. Now I'm going to pull in some of these little die cut pieces and stickers to kind of fill this space over here. I thought that I needed a little bit of that white space kind of cleared up, but I decided that's where I'm going to add my journaling. That's where it's suggested in the sketch anyway, and I want to add some journaling to this page. Of course, this is going to be part of a larger album. I'm making my mom an album of the whole weekend, and then I'll add some of the pages, not all of them, into my scrapbook as well. But I definitely wanted this page in my scrapbook, so that's why I'm scrapbooking it twice. Now this is a really, really cool product. This is a washi tape, and it repeats itself in two different colorways. I wanted the more kind of pinkish corally colors. I thought that those colors looked really nice with this paper. So I'm going to go ahead and take that large die cut away. I don't think I want that reddish color. I've got this coral color now. And these pieces are a lot smaller than my cone flowers, but I just wanted a little bit more of a pop of color and just a little more detail to the page. So I'm going to add these little clusters in a few spots on my layout. And I really like that detail. I wasn't sure about it at first because it is so different from the cone flowers, but I really like it. So I'm forming a visual triangle here. I've got the in the top left, and now pulling these colors down to the middle of the right page at the bottom, and I'll make a little tiny cluster there, and then I'll pull it up here to the top, and that does kind of help fill a little bit of that white space there. That's not going to be covered by the journaling. And I really like how this looks, the little detail it adds. And I put the washi tape onto just white cardstock and then cut it out with the coordinating die. There's also a coordinating stamp set, so you can cut the stamp with the dies as well and color them however you'd like, but it also coordinates with that washi tape, which means you don't have to color, and I always like that. And I also really like that it cuts out all of the florals and leaves in one pass, and that's how the stamp is as well. The stamp is one big stamp for all of the floral and leaf pieces, and it all cuts out at once. Okay, so I wanted to have a little bit more color on this page, or so I thought. So I did a little sample of the strawberry slush, which is one of the new beautiful in colors, on that scrap piece of paper and kind of held it around. I wanted to add it in, I wanted to add it behind the title here to make it stand out. And I like it right here, but then I started going darker. And I think that's what made me not like it so much. Looking back, I don't mind it so much, but in person, I just was really, really not liking it. So you're going to see me finish up doing all of this ink blending in 3 different spots to form a visual triangle. But in the end, I absolutely hated it and I took it apart. So you're going to see how to solve this issue when you really don't like the background of something, how to fix it. So you'll see how I'm going to take it apart. But I'm going to continue on with this, and then I'm going to step away and go have dinner and come back and realize I still hate it. So anyways, while I do this, let me tell you a little bit more about these photos. So my sister and her family live in California, and I live in Colorado, if you don't know that. And my parents live in Colorado for half of the year and Oregon the other half of the year. And so they were in Colorado for my mom's birthday. And my sister and her family flew in, and my dad and I knew what was happening, but my mom had no idea. So when they walked in the door, my mom she started crying. She was so surprised. I don't think we've ever thrown a surprise party for her. She actually typically doesn't like surprises. She wants to kind of be able to plan and know what's happening. So we don't usually throw that on her. But for her 70th birthday, we decided to make it happen. And she was just so giddy. She was so happy. Since my family and I were coming down, we live about an hour and a half away. Since we were coming down to visit, she already kind of had planned that she's having company. She just didn't know how much company. So she was kind of already halfway planning, and I felt like, that was okay. So we had a lot of fun. There were lots of little things that we did. We did little hikes. We went to breweries, just had fun barbecue hangout time at their house. So I'm making my mom a little scrapbook of the whole weekend. And so she loved this page. I sent her a picture. So as you can see, I am just cutting off that bottom strip of paper, and then I'm going to cut off the top strip, and then I'll just mount them back onto a clean white sheet of paper, and no one except for you guys will ever know that I made that mistake. But I do have to figure out what I'm going to do to add just a little bit of color, maybe not that much color, but I just wanted a little bit of something in the background, so we'll figure that out. Another thing I did off camera that I forgot to mention is I tore the top of that floral paper. So there's kind of that, ruffled, torn edge to the top of that paper, and I thought that gave it a nice look. I wasn't liking the blunt edge of the paper when I first put it down, and the sketch actually calls for kind of a torn, ruffled edge anyway. So I decided for my background, I'm going to add some splatters. I know, surprise, surprise, I do this all the time, but I'm doing my splatters a little differently. I have some enamel effects, and so I squirted some of that out on my all-purpose mat. This is 1/4 of an all-purpose mat that I've cut down for small projects like this. And I accidentally added a little bit too much water. So you just need a tiny bit of water just to water that kind of paint-like consistency down enough so that you can splatter it. So I'm going ahead and doing that, just adding a tiny bit of water now. And then I'll use my brush tip on my water brush and my bone folder to splatter around the page. So I was pretty generous because this is sort of a goldish color. It's not a lot of color, but I wanted to make sure I had some color back behind my title and under my embellishments. So I'm going to be fairly generous here. And then since this is paint, I do have to give it plenty of time to dry. So I stepped away for about probably 30 minutes or so before I came back. All right, so here we are with the finished product, and after I show you this, I'll show you the second version. So you can see those little splatters there in the background. I kind of tried to focus them behind my title, behind my embellishments here, and then over here. Not too much up here because that's where I need to still write the journaling. And then I also off camera added some more of these little washi tape flowers around the title because I thought it looked a little bit blank there. But look at how cute these cone flowers are. So we've got that background there, and then we've got this detail here, which I just think is so beautiful. You could even add 2 layers of this if you want, but it doesn't even need it. And then look at all the detail here in this die right here. I just think it's so pretty. And then there's a little close-up of the leaves with that little overlay that they have. I decided not to add any bling on this layout because we've already got a lot going on with the splatters, and it's kind of busy with this floral paper and then all of these florals as well. So I didn't think that it needed it. But there's that kind of watercolor wash paper from the scrapbooking kit. I love that pattern. And I just kind of, you know, tucked all of these little washi pieces. They have a fun look to them. They've got that, you know, matte finish of washi tape, but since they're on the white cardstock, they're opaque. So you could put them onto vellum. I do want to try that, and they'll have a little bit more of a translucent look, but still have that washi tape look. I think it would look really pretty. And then this is another one of those little pop outs from the scrapbooking kit, one of the die cut pieces, and I just stuck that over there. So let me pull on the other one. All right, so here is the paper I decided on for this one, and let me tell you why I think I like this one better. It doesn't have as many colors in it, but the colors that are there really blend nicely, especially with my son's shirt. It looks really nice with this kind of corally color, and because we don't have as many colors down here, that I felt like was kind of pulling attention from the photos, because now the photos are the only ones that have like the blue and the turquoise. So I think your eye is really more drawn to the turquoise in these photos rather than in this. You've got a lot of blue in here, so your eye is drawn to the blue in here and it's competing with the blue in the photos. Anyways, that's just my feeling. I think I ended up liking this one better. I stuck with titles that were in the scrapbook page, so this has a little bit different title. This is another title that was in that scrapbook, or sorry, the scrapbook kit, but I did the same technique where I put a few of the little washi flowers up here in it. I did the splatters up here and over here and back behind here, so very similar. And then over here I used a suite. This is from the sticker sheet rather than the pop-outs. So let me just give you a little look at the comparison. Very, very similar. So there's the right hand page, and then the look at the 2 different left hand pages. So I really hope that you enjoyed this and got some ideas for your own scrapbooking. If you're interested in any of the products I used, they're listed down below. And on the screen right now is that other layout I talked about of the big surprise for my mom. So go ahead and click that, and I'll see you over there. Bye!